Over the course of the last 20 years, no area of law has expanded, and no area, frankly, is more intellectually interesting than human rights law. People often ask me what the approach is to a human rights case, and I respond as follows. By and large, if somebody has experienced a human rights dignity issue in the workplace, it usually relates to one of the prohibited grounds of discrimination. It could be race or gender, it could be family status, it could be disability rights. Whichever area it is, individuals are so affronted, so flabbergasted, so offended by the experience that they have of suffering this workplace-related discrimination. Their first instinct is to just pack up the pencils and go home. Their first instinct should be to evaluate what's going on and see what their rights are and how the problem can be remedied short of leaving the workplace. Sometimes fellow employees are crass, crude, and insensitive, and those issues can be resolved quite simply. Sometimes the offending behavior is directed by the employer, and where that happens, where the employer has directed the behavior, then there really is grounds to evaluate what kind of remedy is appropriate, what kind of steps can be taken, and whether the employee in question wishes to remain in the workplace or wishes to advance a form of wrongful dismissal action that has an element related to the Human Rights Code breaches or alleged breaches. Of all of the various areas of human rights law that we deal with, surely the one that is most complicated and yet produces the best results is disability-related discrimination. I have a personal interest in disability-related discrimination. I now have a 28-year-old son who has substantial, complicated, and varied disabilities. And so as his parent, I've experienced the kind of discrimination that many of my clients experience in the workplace. I get it from the bus companies and from the retail stores and from others that my son interacts with during his daily life. So I have a personal interest in disability rights law, and that personal interest has expanded my experience in the field. In recent years, so many of the cases that come to us relate not to physical disability. I mean, after all, employers are smartening up. They no longer overtly discriminate against people because they use wheelchairs or because they require an assistive device. On the other hand, this smartening up means that there's an effort and often success in covering up the expenses related to accommodating somebody who has a physical disability with the reality that you can figure out or try to figure out how to get that person out of your workplace and thereby save the money. Those are issues that we deal with all the time and that we assist clients with all the time. There are also issues that require great sensitivity, that require a consistent, coherent, and clear approach, and that put us in the position of understanding what the range of accommodation is so that we can make appropriate demands of the employer and at the same time not risk the employee's future job, promotion, and career at the workplace. One of the other areas of discrimination-based law, and one that intersects again with employment law, deals with so-called hidden disabilities. A hidden disability is a disability that you can't see. The person doesn't use a wheelchair, isn't blind, doesn't have an apparent auditory impairment, a hearing problem, has 10 fingers and 10 toes, has 2 arms and 2 legs, but the person has a mental illness. Now, mental illnesses range from the most mild of depression to very severe diagnosed mental disability. And those illnesses, like all disabling conditions, also require accommodation in the workplace. And it is, frankly, horrendous, given the wide range and extent of mental illness that we know about in our society, that employers manage to get away with driving, haranguing, and eliminating from their workplace people who need time off to deal with anxiety, depression, people who need time off to see their doctors, people who need time to adjust to their new and changing medications, etc. When we face those problems, we interact with psychiatrists and psychologists. We interact with the experts who can assist us in fashioning an understanding of the problem and in encouraging the employer to accept the necessity to accommodate.